Hi there. We seem to be a little unstable today. Hi, I'm Jennifer Elizabeth Masters, and the subject today of this video is dealing with grief and loss. So we're just going to tap in, connect to our hearts, and just take a deep breath. Just breathe. Inhale slowly, filling your lungs all the way to the top, and exhale slowly. So there are lots of different things to talk about with grief, and I wanted to share, there's so many different ways that we experience grief. We have pets, and that was one of the things that I experienced today and yesterday, and actually it's been coming up for a while for me. I lost a kitty in June, and my dog Karma, that was with me for a very long time, was put to sleep in March. There's other types of grief too. We could have a breakup, a divorce, issues with family members that we grieve over. We can grieve over friendships that we lose, because as we grow and evolve, often what happens is the people we were friends with, maybe for 10, 15, or 20 or more years, may not resonate with us any longer, and we drift and kind of repel each other, and that happens too, and there's grief from that. So one of the things that I was told when my daughter's father passed away, my ex-husband, was that it takes about 3 months before the actual event sets in. So someone may have died, you may have put an animal to sleep, you may have lost your home, whether it's through fire, foreclosure. There's all different ways that we can lose things and people. But it takes about 3 months before we actually get to the point of really tapping in to those feelings. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross has written about it, and many others. There are 5 stages of grief, and the first one that we experience is denial, that we can't believe it just happened, and we may not want to believe it just happened. It may not seem real, and that is part of the process. Coming to the place of, well, this really did happen. So take a deep breath. So just recognizing the reality of the situation, and whether you're dealing with grief right now or whether you have in the past. You know, my dad's been gone nearly 30 years, and I still feel that every once in a while. It'd be really nice to talk to you, Dad. And, lots of us, depending on where you're at, our parents are starting to leave. Our classmates from high school, I know lots of mine that graduated at the same time. A lot of people are leaving the planet, and it can really feel overwhelming. So rather than ignoring these feelings, it's important to process them, because if we don't process these feelings, We're then ignoring them, stuffing them. You may experience weight gain. You may go into a really dark depression and not be able to get out of it. So the second stage of grief is anger. And you may be angry at yourself. Why didn't I do more? Why didn't I say this? Or why didn't I visit more often? There are lots of different ways that we can feel anger. And if it's a sudden death, like a suicide, we may feel angry with the person for taking their life. We may be angry with the person for dying. So acknowledging that feeling is coming up for you is huge. So what can you do with this anger? Walking, running, getting physical, expressing our emotions in a physical way can help us process. You could maybe listen to sad songs. Yesterday something played and it just hit me. And of course someone said something to me right after the sad song, and the two combined, and that was it. And I was a big waterfall. And I needed to cry. And when we cry, we release stress. We need to release the stress, because when we store it in our body, and someone posted on a comment on a post that I had put on Facebook recently, that 85% of the population is under tremendous stress, and it is the number one cause of disease, illness, and death. So rather than ignore these feelings that you're experiencing, you could journal, cry, punch a pillow, run, dance, stomp your feet, scream. But the one thing that you do not want to do is ignore it, because those feelings do not go away. I've got clients texting me. I'm trying to read texts from clients while I'm talking to you. So these feelings don't go away just because we stuff them. They remain, and they get stored in our cells, and our cells have memory. So energy clearings can certainly help. Praying can help. Meditation can help. Dance, song, movement. Get out and move. And get out in nature. And that brings me to the stage 3 of grief is bargaining. And you may want to bargain with someone. Don't leave me. Please stay. Please love me. What did I do? I won't do it again. Trying to get them to stay, whether it's a divorce or a breakup. Or you may attempt to bargain with God. So just breathe. Acknowledge it. I know I had somebody asking me recently, could I make a deal to have something? I can't answer that question for you. But I know fighting with God doesn't work. I've tried that. It doesn't work. Okay, so then the next stage of grief is depression. And depression can be long-lasting. You could have depression for years, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. And that was the case with me. I had chronic depression because of childhood trauma that I never dealt with. And so having those emotions come up, expressing, whether it's writing, journaling, doing energy work, working with someone who does grief counseling, grief processing would be helpful too. And the real cause of depression is anger that you feel you don't have a right to have. So it's almost like a helplessness, a sense of helplessness and hopelessness. And that is a very dark place to be in. So take another deep breath. So just know that grief and loss are things that we process at different rates of speed. And nobody can tell you you've grieved enough, it's time to move on. Now, I had a boyfriend die back in, I think it was 2003. And now his spirit came to me and said it was enough. But truly, we are the ones that decide whether we've grieved enough, whether we've cried enough, whether we have had enough time to really sit with those feelings. The biggest thing that I'll say about processing grief and loss, and whether it's the loss of a home, and I've lost a couple, one through black mold, and I walked away from everything. It was like having a fire, I would say, without the trauma. It's not as traumatic as a fire loss, but it is loss. Even when we give things away, we take things to the thrift store and we give things away, we know we're not going to wear those things anymore. We may experience a sense of loss. I loved that shirt. I love that dress. I love those pants. And, even material things we can grieve over the loss of. Just acknowledging that you're having that experience. It's okay. I will get through this. Tomorrow's another day. Even though I feel sad, I love and approve of myself. I'm going to sit with this sadness. So I'm going to do a little energy work here for sadness, sorrow, crying. Those are all elements of grief. So I'm just going to shift a little bit of energy here. So you can close your eyes, turn your palms upward. Take a deep breath, relax. Just know you're in a safe place. And if you're wondering what the last stage of grief is, it's acceptance. And acceptance, when you've had trauma, when you finally come to a place of accepting that it all happened for a reason, it makes a huge shift, a monumental shift in your life and your world. It means coming to terms with it. It happened for a reason. Okay, take a deep breath. So I'm asking to clear the energies of grief, sorrow, sadness, loss, clearing depression. Take another deep breath. Clearing worry, maybe worrying about what's going to happen next. Breathing. Crying, shame, guilt. Maybe you felt like you didn't do enough. And somewhere in there, we're going to clear that feeling abandoned. Because often loss accompanies, or abandonment accompanies loss. Take a deep breath. Okay, clearing sadness. We're lightening this energy. Clearing clearing blocks to understanding, grief. Take another deep breath. Well, thank you for sharing your time with me. I hope this was helpful, and if you liked it, it was helpful for you, you may want to share this with a friend. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching. I love you. I'm Jennifer Elizabeth Masters. Much love.